Hey guys, Dan the Tortoise Man with CBReptile.com, your home for captive red reptiles and reptile accessories. And right here, tucked away inside of their safe protective shell, is one of our Star Tortoises. Star Tortoises are extremely popular because of their relatively small size. These guys will get about 7 to 12 inches long and about 20, 30, or even 50 years in captivity, so these are a lifelong friend. Okay guys, so now that we know about sizing as well as age, let's talk about keeping them happy through that long and happy life of theirs. What we're going to need to do is find a place to house them. And there's no better place for your tortoise than a tortoise house. We sell tortoise houses at CBReptile.com. They're very popular, so go ahead and scoop one of those bad boys up. Those are going to be able to comfortably house one of our smaller tortoises for a few. Our tortoise houses are super popular and even easier to build. So it takes 0 power tools and about 1 person, 1 hour. You can cut that time in half if you're going to be using a helping hand. So you can see about 30-minute turnaround between you having the box open and having a perfect home for your tortoise. So what you're going to do with this tortoise house, once it's built, you're going to see that there's going to be 2 chambers. One is a large chamber that's going to be protected using a grate. So if you want to keep them outside, you can totally keep them outside. Make sure they're not going to get flooded. So you want to have them over top of some kind of awning, making sure that there's not going to be direct downpour on it, especially if it's raining. You want to bring them back inside. But you can keep them outside or inside happily with the tortoise house. Inside of that one open area, you're going to have all of these fixes that we got in front of us. A few of them are going to be interchangeable depending on if you house them inside or out. As far as temperature inside of your tortoise house, it's going to need to be about 75 to 90 degrees, and that's a big range. So we're going to use that big tortoise house to keep that range from having one side, say the left side, going to be a bit of a moisture, a little bit of that cooler side, so have a little bit more moss on that side, as well as keeping it a little closer to that mid-70s. And then on the other side, towards the basking light, we're actually going to have towards that 90-degree temperature. You can keep that in the high 80s, mid 80s, but around that basking light, we're actually going to need a 95-degree basking area that is going to be localized to the hot hide, which I'll go over a little bit inside of the actual setup of our tortoise house. But we're going to be using our ceramic heat emitter to give off that heat and create that basking area. Going along with our ceramic heat emitter, what we're going to do is take this UVB lamp, and this is actually one of our longer bulbs. They have a special fixture that you can put one of our lamps in, and that comes with a screw-in bulb. However, this is going to be for a hood lamp. Hood lamps are great because they give a wide, long perspective for the nice spectrum of light that's going to be coming out. How we're going to get that humidity inside of our terrarium. So we have a few key instruments over here. So we have some Eco Earth as well as some Forest Floor. Just mix up a couple of that, about 40% of our Eco Earth, about 60% of our Forest Floor, just because these guys love to burrow, they love to dig down. You're going to give them ample opportunity to do that inside this thicker, coarser Forest Floor than you will have getting through this nice compact Eco Earth. Eco Earth is going to hide a little bit more of that moisture, so it's going to retain a lot of that moisture and keep the ambient humidity up. But if you have a little trouble with that humidity, you also have terrarium moss. It adds a little bit of color to your terrarium or your tortoise house, and it also allows you to add a little bit more moisture. We have a little bit of this cork over here, so what we can do is actually put some of the moss underneath of the cork, and then with that cork, it's going to create a nice moisture hide, so it's going to have a nice protection from the top, as well as lock in a lot of that moisture. So if they want to burrow into the moss underneath of that log, they're going to have that opportunity to get that extra moisture. Additionally, for the hot hide, what we're going to be using is one of our half logs. Half logs are great for getting that little bit of a grip on top of it, so they can use this to climb up on top of and then get a little bit closer to that basking area, a little bit closer to that heat if they really need some intensity. Food and water are going to be huge aspects of your tortoise's life, so we're going to keep an eye on that by keeping the bowls separate. So we have over here a Reptile rock, and then over here we have a Reptile ramp. These guys are going to be unique in their own sense, where the rock is going to get buried a little bit deeper in and allow for a bit of a bowl, so they can go in there and they can eat their food, and the food isn't going to fall out as easily. But this ramp is going to give them the opportunity so they can get a little bit more swim time, they can get a little bit more time so they can bathe themselves. What you're going to want to do is bathe them about 2-3 times a week. And that's going to be a nice 20-minute soak in a warm water, and that's going to allow them to reabsorb some of that moisture. Any of their shedding skin is going to get a little bit more moisture on it as well and help it shed, as well as give them that time to clean themselves and feel safe to defecate. They're going to defecate inside of their bowls sometimes, so you want to keep an eye on it and make sure it's going to be clean, because not having clean water in your terrarium or your tortoise house is going to be very, very harmful to your animal. Filling up your turtle bowl can be really, really fun. What we serve here for chow is going to be our tortoise chow. Tortoise chow can be picked up at CBReptile.com. So pick some up for your new buddy. They're going to love it, and that's what they're already acclimated to. It's going to give them all the nutrients that they need, but it also goes really, really well with some romaine lettuce, as well as some dandelion greens. You can spread it on top like a bit of an open face sandwich, and then you can sprinkle some Reptile on top 2-3 times a week, so you can make sure they're getting their calcium. For a little bit extra calcium on the side as well. Over here we have a cuttlefish bone. You can use a tortoise bone, a turtle bone, or cuttlefish bone. Those are all going to be absolutely perfect for them to get that extra calcium. And they actually do like to walk by it and give a little chomp every once in a while. So you'll watch it slowly but surely disappear. In addition to those greens, the tortoise chow, they're also going to enjoy a little bit of veggies, man, including some fruits, and those fruits are going to be some strawberries. So we love feeding our Star Tortoises strawberries, but you got to keep it real seldom. You can't be feeding them these all the time. Make sure you do it, once a month, every couple of weeks, just to be sure that you can get some nice candid shots of them. If you want to show them off and play with them with a friend, make sure you keep it very low key. You don't want to be overfeeding them different fruits because it could mess up their digestive system. It's got a lot of sugars in there, and that's not necessarily in their normal diet.
And here we have one of our completed Tortoise houses, which we'll get a little bit more into in just a second. But for the light fixtures, here we have the UVB hood lamp that is strategically placed along the long side of our Tortoise house, just so it's going to give off that wide spectrum in the largest capacity. And we also have in the top right corner, strategically placed right above the heat hide, is going to be that ceramic heat emitter inside of its light fixture.
Okay guys, so over here we have exactly our perfect setup for our Star Tortoises. We have our hood lamp that's going to be strategically placed over here. Of course we're going to have our heating element going right over here over our hot spot. But for now, what we're going to be talking about is how the functionality really works and the flow of this terrarium. So our tortoise house is going to be absolutely phenomenal for these growing guys. Like I said before, these are going to be really great to house these guys for a good portion of their life. How this is going to make their life very happy, as well as meet all of their needs, is going to be very simple. So where our fast one just went over there, that's going to be their hide, where they're going to have that extra hiding space. So we have 2 hides located here and here. This is going to be our hot hide, and this is going to be our moisture hide. But that hide is going to be perfect for letting them keep themselves. They can burrow over in that section, and then they can also use that as a nice dark place to go when not looking for so much attention. These Star Tortoises are going to love their hides, and they're going to love that opportunity to get themselves into a nice closed space, especially when we're talking about our hatchlings and juveniles. We want to make sure that they aren't going to get in trouble inside of this environment, so we want to make sure that they have about a shelf length between the outsides going along this hot hide. Over here we're pressed up pretty good, but what you want to do is make sure they're not going to be slipping into cracks like somewhere over here. We have a little bit of space back here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that all the way to the edge. That way we know our tortoises aren't going to get stuck inside of this corner. Have over here some of our food and water bowls, again super important, and we have the ramp so they can walk right up inside of here, get that soak that they need, and then they can walk right back out. This rock might give a little bit of trouble with them getting in specifically, as well as getting out, so we're going to keep this for the food. The food will of course go a little bit over top, and if you guys feel like they might have a little bit of trouble getting in there, because again we have these really tiny little guys, what you can do is you can just wiggle them down inside of the dirt and then give them a tight little berry. That's what we're going to do to keep sure that they're not going to go anywhere, especially with these tortoises. They're going to be pushing their way to their goal. So they don't have a lot of agility, but what they do is have a lot of determination. So they will get into this food bowl, they'll get their nice food, but what you want to do is give them a little bit of assistance, maybe to build a little bit of a ramp up for them. That's going to go for our warm hide over here too. This hide, what I did is I dug it down a little bit, so it's a little bit underneath the substrate going down to like right here, and I buried it back up a little bit. That way they have a bit of a ramp so they can climb up on top of it. If they roll off the side, they're not going to get stuck in here. They can just walk right back out. And then I dug down inside of the substrate. You can either do this for them, just pulling a little bit out and pushing over to the side, but undoubtedly they will end up making a bit of a burrow for themselves underneath this as well. We're not going to be digging up this moisture hide just because, again, we have some moisture underneath of here. So this is going to be some of our sphagnum moss, some of our terrarium moss. So this terrarium moss is going to be absolutely perfect for keeping that moisture locked inside of this cork. So if they do feel like it, they can burrow under here, get that extra moisture that they're going to desire, and then also feel protected. So again, putting that right back up to the edges, making sure that they can't fall over and hurt themselves and even get stuck. But it's just like that hide, where this is going to give you the moisture and this is going to give you the heat. If they're going to burrow inside of this moss. If they're going to burrow here, they're going to just hit that substrate. So might as well give them a nice little cavern so they have a nice canopy over their heads. This goes are very sizable, so you can have this just for their hatchling stages, and then you can get a bigger one. Same thing goes with your cork, and same thing goes with your Reptiramp. This Reptiramp is not going to be big enough to house your entire tortoise, so what you want to do is take your tortoise, you can fill them up right here. So if they fit inside their dish, you know you can soak them in there. If they get too big to be soaked inside that dish, you want to go upgrade to one of our medium-sized Reptiramps. Thank you so much for joining us here at CBReptile.com. I hope you learned something. This has been one of our Star Tortoises, and if you like Star Tortoises, if you learned something about Star Tortoises, or you're just a reptile enthusiast like myself, please smash that like button. Don't forget to kick that subscribe button, and ring that bell icon if you want to stay updated on everything CBReptile.com. This is Dan the Tortoise Man signing out. Hoping to see you next time at CBReptile.com.